Hello and welcome to Talking Dogs on a Monday when we are discussing all things BOYLE Sports Irish Greyhound Derby. As you can see, we are joined by, well, two of the great talkers in Irish Greyhound racing. I'll probably just let them off and probably go away and come back in an hour and see if they're still talking. The exiled one, Tommy Lyons, is with us as always. And we have the... no, I've done that joke before, Kevin. I did it on Saturday night, I think, or Friday night. We have Kevin Hennessy from BOYLE Sports themselves. Myself and Kevin have already dissected, gone through all 24 heats. That is available up on the GRI YouTube site. But we are going to probably look back and plenty of the displays from the opening round again in the BOYLE Sports Irish Greyhound Derby. Gentlemen, it was a great start to the Derby. We'll start with you, Tommy, because we haven't heard your thoughts as yet. But all in all, I think it lived up to expectations. It remains a Derby that's quite open, yet the top of the market is still quite contracted. So it's both wide open, yet there's a definite shape.
It's still wide open. I wouldn't like to be diving in on the short prices at the moment. I would say actually talking about it, or maybe Kevin might know. I'd say looking at the I was interested looking in at odds checker during Friday and Saturday and watching the money that was coming for the dogs in heats. I don't think they were that successful. The moves I saw anyway, apart from one exception, the dog that I didn't realize was as good as he was sleight of hand at 29.10. He was well backed with weekend. Was it Weekend James? Was it one of well, yeah, it was Weekend James was in two. There's a lot of money for him. But apart from that, all the other ones that I saw that there was strong support for during the day, they all seem to maybe run a little bit below expectation.
Yeah, Weekend James was up £3 on the night, Kevin. He'd been withdrawn from the Puppy Derby. He probably was just, in need of the run, and sleight of hand and Lawrence Jones, they took full advantage. This fellow was the gamble of the round. I would have said. I think he was available at 7-2. Very early. I spoke to Damien Lonigan yesterday, and he told me that they saw a nibble from the right money at 7-2, and he immediately cut him. He said, and for that reason, it's sort of saved their bacon somewhat because the money kept coming for him on the night itself, and he went off 6-4 or so. And after five strides, it was clear this fellow meant it.
Yeah, look, it was a to be honest, I thought it was a brilliant opening round. It had everything you want to trademark an opening round of a derby. You know, you had some outstanding performances. Sleight of hand, obviously, being the joint quickest winner of the opening round, along with Bouncing Monarch. And as you said, the money was down, the right money was on him, and I just think he reminds me a lot of Ballymac Matt. I think you could paint the red jacket onto him, he's going to be very difficult to beat. I would just slightly worry about him drawn out from the fence, and with the amount of inside seeds in the Derby, he's not guaranteed that draw. But we said it about Matt when he went through that Derby. He can't keep getting one, and he did. He just kept getting it, and
Mm.
if he keeps getting one, he's going to be a very difficult dog. He's got an immense talent. I saw him the night he won in 29.34, and I thought you summed it up well. He done 29.34 in Shelbourne outside a Derby competition. And you can always mark that time up then in the Derby, and I think he showed it. It obviously was a step forward as well, but overall, I was over the moon. Like even you talk about Weekend James, he was probably one of my biggest eye catchers in defeat. And as Tommy said, you might look at the top end of the market; they're all well found. You don't get any prices for tipping any of them. Which I was asked afterwards, if I was to pick something for a bit of value after the opening round, Weekend James was the dog I'd pick. I think there's still 20s or that about him. He was a real eye catcher for me, but like we had everything. You had some spills with obviously the likes of Ballymaxatanta, Fair Point Ranger being desperately unlucky to go out, and you had the thrills of Bouncing Monarch and Sleight of Hand, and then you had the storylines. We talked about Kilcorgan, Norman for Karen Gagan and plenty more. So, and then the bitches, like ever since Susie Sapphire, I love when the ladies are in there. They just add an extra dimension to the game. And we were talking just before we started, and Tommy said there's 19 bitches still left in it, and they're not just, a quantity number. There's serious quality of bitches in this.
Mm.
Like really is. I thought the other night that I came across one or two bitches like just she could be valued in the top bitch market, and then you realize, well, you've got Camilla and you've got Gwenny and you've got Ballydoyle Teen, and you're realizing Jeannie Mac, is there any point to back her to win top bitch? You might as well just back her to win the Derby, because if she's elevate all them bitches, she'll go fairly close to winning it. So yeah, brilliant opening round, and can't wait to get stuck into it again next weekend.
Yeah, and the two joint fastest heat winners were Bouncing Monarch and Sleight of Hand. Tommy both posted 29:10, one in heat 13, one in heat 23, both on the second night. Bouncing Monarch justifying his position at the head of the market, and Sleight of Hand, as we've said, coming out of nowhere, not nowhere, obviously he had a high level of form, and somebody knew something because, as I said, there was strong support for him. They were the two big runs, 29:10. Was there any evidence to suggest the track was running so much better on Saturday night? I just felt that looking at the two nights, I felt there probably better runs would come on Saturday night. Just felt there was a different profile of dog.
I think at this stage of Derby, there's a few ways of looking at it. I didn't think it was red hot Saturday night. Funnily enough, I thought, and even though it was 29:10, obviously, I didn't think that the you can look into these when you get Derby heat, and especially the first round when you've got so many greyhounds involved, 144 greyhounds, you can get heats where it'll lay itself out for a dog who might not always lead, or just everything is in place. Sleight of hand is a case in point. Now he's an October pup, so he's entitled to improve. But I'm like Kevin. I was slight concern maybe if even when he was drawn two one night, he looked like
Yeah.
he lacked the early pace, and yet when he's drawn in one, he looks like a proper dog with pace everywhere you want it and need it. So things can fall into place. So hence the reason you can get those really fast times. And I think it was, there were for other greyhounds, and not just Thomas Sleight of Hand here, for loads of greyhounds, they kind of the makeup of the race looked ideal. And you know what? If you're going to break a track record or go close to it, these are probably the rounds to do it. There are a couple of heats in the second round. They look the same thing. That where there's dogs they look like they're morals to lead and go on and win as far as they like. So it'll get an awful lot tougher. So I like the dog that does 29:10 in the third round or the quarterfinals is going to be a machine, because I'm not sure how he can do it right in the level of competition that's in the team. It's absolutely insane. The quality is insane. I still
Yeah.
can't say, even though I did have a few quid on the Bouncing Monarch, because I think he was 14s. He was 14s on the machine before the start, and I just thought I wasn't going to have a bet anti-post. I just thought, well, that's a bit big. And then I ended up having I ended up having three other small bets. I think I backed Weekend James, I backed Waiting for a Star, and just saving me money in Ballycount Frank, just because of the price, just to get my money back, lose nothing on it. But like it's still so wide open, and I couldn't even pinpoint the winner at the moment. And that's the beauty of it. That's what it should be.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. One thing we haven't mentioned is sleight of hand. He's in October 24, and this was only his ninth start, so I wouldn't be too concerned by anything we've seen thus far as regards early speed or whatnot. Even the trap draw, I'd be giving him the benefit of the doubt, just given the fact that he is young and he's improving all the time. I thought this was a very different sleight of hand than we've seen before. So it's just worth something going forward. Now he does have trap one in the second round. He will be close to being odds on again. So following that opening round display. So I'd be giving him another look. Like I wouldn't be just, saying it's a flash in the pan run. I'm not saying either of you are, because obviously he's October 24. We know how open to improvement he is. Let's touch on a couple of the best performances from Friday night. The fastest of them was Solo and Go. And Kevin, I'd probably start with you here because for me, anytime I've spoken about Solo and Go, those I've spoken to have said, well, sure, himself and Lindy's dynamic, I'd say deserve equal billing, because I thought Lindy's dynamic made a great start to his Derby campaign in second spot. He's only beaten three parts of a length and probably showed a different side to him than we've seen before. He never looked the strongest. We knew he was very raw, very young, and improving all the time. But in defeat, I thought he ran very, very well and showed a bit more strength perhaps than we've seen from him before.
Yeah, look, he that was what impressed me about him when I mentioned him to you back was we've never really pushed him. And I thought back then in February time when he was doing the runs that he really shouldn't have been doing what he was doing at the time, which is obviously what excited all of us. So I don't think any of us were ever afraid of the 550. I think he will be an out and out 550 yard dog. I think that's going to be his trip. He just has blistering early speed. But not to get sidetracked just on dynamic. I really like Solo and Go. I've always liked
Mm,
him. But I think he's added a different, I suppose, dimension to his game at the moment because he's a much stronger dog. He's a much stronger dog. This isn't the same dog that and not to take anything away from Magical on Fire, she's a bitch of a lifetime, and we know how talented she is. But I don't think this version of Solo and Go gets picked up in the Laurels if he was in it this year. Just don't see it. Like the way he held off Ballycount, Frank and Tralee, the way I know things didn't maybe go right for him, picked up a knock in the Gold Cup and stuff like that. But I just think he's a much different dog. And the Gold Cup this year was what really opened my eyes to him, because running in Shelburne in the month of February time, March time, when it's colder, the 525 then is tougher than the 550 now, believe it or not, and that's just the truth. And he never struck me in that competition as a dog that was tying up at all. So I think he's a far stronger dog, and I don't think he's as readily, easy to pick up anymore. So I think there's a massive run by Solo and Go, especially when I saw the preparation he had, the sprint and then the 525 within like 3 days of each other, told me that Liam had really let these dogs down and wanted to come into this Derby fresh with a number of them. They all had, well, a number of them had a similar sort of profile. I just don't think I think that tells you that he wanted to come in a little bit undercooked. So, like, it was a huge run. Now, look, obviously, the bounce and stuff like that, he hasn't been off that long, so I can't imagine him bouncing. But this is a really impressive run by Solo and Go. He's drawn in the middle in the second round again. I think they do battle again in the race with serious early pace. But I thought it was a big run from the winner. And yeah, look, we were over the moon with Dynamic. I just didn't think he ran the first two bends great. He wasn't fluent on the first two bends, Dynamic. So I think there's room for improvement in him there. And look, speaking about Liam's dogs, obviously coming in a bit undercooked. I don't think I'm telling any secrets by saying that the outlet, he would never really have them drilled for the first round either. So I'd like to think that they'll continue to improve as well. So yeah, very pleased with how Dynamic ran, and separately from an open point of view, I was very taken with Solo and Go's run.
Yeah, Tommy, he's a dogged sort of performer, and this is probably the right time to tell you the news. By the time we're going live, will have been broken. J.K. Fly, Kevin just told us before we got on, he will be a non-runner from that second round heat, which features Solo and Go and Lenny's Dynamic. That's a big, like, it's obviously disappointing for Carol Reardon and Paul and Kevin. With JK Fly, it's nothing too serious, Kevin. He will
No,
be
it's
back. It's just one
pulled
of
him
those
up
little
3 weeks.
things, but it's a big bonus for the likes of Solo and Go and Lenny's Dynamic, because JK Fly has that early speed. He could just been in the way. It's a very different heat now with him missing from the inside.
Yeah, no,
Yeah, very much so. But I think in that heat that we're talking about the other night, the Solo and Go and Lenny Dynamic, I think both of them can break a lot better. I don't think they were
Yeah.
absolutely polished. I think if you want to turn 29-27 into 29-10, you can find it in the early stages. I was also impressed with Roaming Shelby. I think that was a cracking heat. I thought Roaming Shelby ran a hell of a race for a dog of very little experience, showed some pace in behind the two of them. And just echoing what Kevin said about Lenny's Dynamic and about Solo and Go. Solo and Go was strong to the escape, which is like a different dog that, as I said, that they got picked up in the solo. Luckily, after doing a huge time in the Laurels final, tell you how good a quality final that was. But he does look like a different dog, and if he can just sharpen up and traps, but we know he has that. But that's what we'd be looking for from Solo and Go. So I'd expect an even more polished display from him. But I liked all three of them there. I think that like they're three dogs that can go deep into the derby. You know, obviously Roman Shelby has very little experience, and it might come against him maybe unless he matures very quickly. But she's a hell of an effort in third as well.
Yeah, he's a nice dog. He's a good sort of all round profile. He does sort of a bit of everything. Solo and Go did a 348. Now he has a 333 and a 335 in his card in last year's Derby. Now in doing a 348, he did a 1698, which brings me
Yeah.
back to my next point. We talk about the third bend clocks, and obviously you don't want to get too hung up on clocks, but last year in the opening round of the Derby, or last year in the Derby, full stop, six greyhounds in total over 6 rounds broke 17 seconds to the third bend. On Friday and Saturday night, four of the 24 leaders broke 17 seconds. Obviously, we know of Bouncing Monarch, and Sleight of Hand actually went fastest with a 1690. Bouncing Monarch did a 1691. There was a 1695. I have it written. I have it typed
Oh
up.
yeah, Warrior, I think was it.
Ballet Warrior did a 1695, and Solon Go did a 1698. Now he did a 1698 off a as I said, like a
Yeah.
348, like, and you add that little bit of strength in there. He's a player. I'm not too worried about trap four either. He's won from trap four on a couple of occasions in Shelburne Park. Indeed, I think he did a 204 from trap four over 525 yards. He's won from trap three over 550 yards. So I wouldn't be too concerned by the draw for him next night. I'd be more concerned by the presence of Lenny's Dynamic, who, again, like, if Solo and Go's doing a 348, Lenny's Dynamic must be doing a 354 or something. I don't have it. I don't have it printed up for myself here. I'll open it up. What is he doing? Oh, he's doing a 348 as well. I find that hard to believe, to be
It's
honest.
close. It's close between them. It's close
Yeah, it's
between them.
close. He's after picking up, of course, he's after picking up ground into the line at that point. But he
Mm.
certainly gave Solo and Go a start at boxes, which is, well, telling in itself that he's able to clock the same sectional. Trapping, Kevin, I'm sure you feel it probably will come with him. The one thing about him is he's never had a sort of a clear run at the same track over and over and over
Yeah.
again. He had three spins there at Limerick, a trial and two runs, and missed the break in his second start there at Limerick. He's had a couple of runs in Cork, a couple of runs obviously in Toaster. With further experience of those boxes, and the fact that the hair is closer, sort of in behind the boxes from the last bend, he probably will sharpen up at boxes. And if he does, major player. You've been convinced from earlier this year that this probably was your Derby dog.
Yeah, he's the dog I've always, like I said, go back to favorite time. I think it was a race against Sawdust Barry. Like Sawdust Barry at the time, I think it run well in a big puppy competition, and Dynamic went up and beat him that night, and it was just an unbelievable run. Yeah, look, I've seen him flash from the boxes in trials at home. The second trial we ever gave him, I don't think we could believe what he did in Kilkenny. So, he's always promised that. But like you said, and that's why I was so excited to see him in the Derby. He's never had a consistent run at a track over the same traps. Like when we ran him in Shelburne, it was a 550, and then it was into a 525. We went to Limerick. We thought, he'd be a major player in the Kirby. I think he beat Ralph and waiting for a star 5 and 7 lengths in the first round, and then he slips at the boxes in the second round. So and he's gone. So and Toaster, just you couldn't break from trap six. You just, no
Mm.
matter what you could do, like Tank couldn't do it either. So um he has to do it, and make no mistake, he has to. As much as we can say he's strengthened up, and I believe he's a 550 yard dog, if Lenny's Dynamic is going to win the Derby, he ain't going to win the Derby coming from off the pace. It's like I think he's a dog that can go below 1690 to the third bend. That's how much early I believe he has. But to do that, he needs to do low 340s, breaking 340 at the boxes. I've seen it in a trial. I've seen him doing it. We need to see him doing it in a race. I trust that he can. I hope he can. And I look forward to watching him throughout the rest of the Derby. And it's gas because I know one of the other dogs you're probably going to talk about now when you look at the highlights from Friday night. But when you say no dog last year broke 17, and we're talking about dogs breaking 1690s and saying it's the fastest of all of them, and the dog will probably come to now in a minute, was just making a mockery of that split only 2 years ago, and seeing him as well on Friday night was just incredible. Obviously, the great Bacchus Diamond.
Yeah, that's where I was going. You read my mind. It was great to see the old lad back. He's approaching 4 years of age. Tommy Lyons. We are talking about these third bend sectionals. 1684 was the fastest Cheap Sandwiches did last year. It was the only time he broke 17 seconds actually in the semi-finals of the Derby last year. Bocco's Diamond of the year he won the Derby. He broke 17 seconds in every round, and he did a 1658. Now, 1658. Just think about that. And people slag me, oh God, you went over the top with Bocco's Diamond, and the UK contingent particularly. Like they don't seem to remember how good this fellow was. Like even the other night, he's doing a 1703 the other night. And like it wasn't, he didn't wing from boxer or anything like that. He's nearly 4 years of age, probably badly needed the run. It was just great to see the old fella back. And I'm delighted to say I think he'd be long odds on to win his second
He's
round.
a certainty to win the
He's got a
second round.
great
He's
draw. Like, and
yeah, yeah,
like
yeah.
all of a sudden we have Bacchus Diamond. If things go right next week, geez, touch wood, you don't want to put the mockers on him, but he could be in the third round of a derby.
Don't mind putting mockers on superstition as far wrong. The wrong type of people. But Bacchus Diamond, it was just brilliant to watch him again. He had to battle really hard to pace into the bin to get around in front. And as you said, 1703, he came back late on, and you'd imagine that's going to happen anyway this stage of his career. But like we wanted to see this sort of run for a while. And you said there a few weeks ago, I wouldn't be surprised if he did a 29:20. He was 29:40 the other night. I won't be surprised if he does a 29-20 on next Saturday night, or for the Friday or Saturday night, because he's got a great makeup. And I say, you look at this stage of his career, it's all bonus. It's all bonus. And we didn't overplay it. We didn't overplay it when he won the Derby. What he was doing was ridiculous. And the runner up, of course, went on to win the Derby the following year. How much more can you do? You
Yeah,
confirmation of form? Do
I
you?
think that's called franking the form.
Yeah, exactly. Like how much more the confirmation of his ability do you want? Like those sections that time were ridiculous. But we had seen it in the sprint cup. The pace was shown against he'd been shown pace against Johnny Linehan's dog, they've been running against each other in Kilkenny, and he was
Runners
showing pace
fancy.
against him that was unnatural. Like that was unnatural. I mean, he was a dog for all time. He's one of the greatest I've ever seen, and I think along with the likes of Premier Fantasy for raw ability, and also my old favorite, whose name is Michael Donovan's dog, the Harold's Class Grand Prix winner, Serene Rumble.
Very humble,
Serene
yeah.
Rumble. At his best, he was a sensational greyhound as well. Oh my good God! Like those sort of raw ability. Bacchus Diamond had all that. He's not going to win a derby at this stage of his career. He just can't win another one like at this stage of his career. But Jesus, the joy to be part of watching what he's doing at the moment, even just for the pure joy of how much a greyhound can still love the game a couple of years on when he's not even at the very top of his game. So I mean, long may he continue into this derby.
Yeah, Kevin, he definitely got the biggest cheer of the night on Friday. And it wasn't at Traps, it wasn't at the Lion. It was just when he got around Bucco's Gold and the crown of the bend. The cheer went up from the crowd. And you said it, Lee Craze was watching it beside you, and here's a man who was his own dogs in the Derby, and he shouts, "Look, go on, Diamond," and he didn't have him backed or anything like that. But that's how people feel about him. Like they almost, as we've always said, they almost feel like they own a piece of him.
Yeah, look, it was, and that's the truth. Lee was beside me, and a couple of his friends, and everyone was cheering, and the hair stood up on your back. And like you said, it was crazy. I was over the far side, over the kennel, standing on that wall, and the minute he clears the bend, not that obviously the crowd wasn't nearly as big as it would be Derby final night or semi-final night, but it was that same sort of feeling, that same sort of it was just all in unison, just at the
Mhm.
exact same time. Whether you back, and I'm not saying everyone backed him. I don't know what the support was like on him, but regardless of whether you backed him or not, the roar went up for him. And I think I said it to you on the video piece when we were doing it. I was just looking at the form book that it said in the top corner of the card, and it said he'd been out of the first three once. So I
Yeah.
presumed in his Irish farm, and I said to you when we were trying to think on the spotlight, couldn't think of it. And it's a trick question actually, because his fifth place in the Toaster Derby last year is counted in that. He's
Oh yeah,
never been out of the first
because the
three.
UK form is on his card. Yeah.
Yeah, he's never been out of the first three in Ireland, ever, in
Mhm.
his life. In 23 starts, never been out of the first three. And
And
like,
do you know how many times he's been beaten in Shelburne?
well, probably twice maybe, is it? Once?
I think it's twice. Yeah,
Twice,
it's
yeah. Like
remarkable, really, isn't
it's
it?
a, and like and this is a dog like we're talking about going through like like he's competed at the top level. I know people might be listening to this and going, "Oh, 23. My dog is running out of frame maybe twice in 23 starts." But this dog is literally since the day he ran his first race in the Red Mills, renowned as one of the best on race of the year, goes from that down to the Open Puppy in Cork, and never steps back into anything bar derbies or champion stakes or whatever. Like to have that type of record is outstanding. And look,
I tell a lie. He's been beaten three times in Shelburne now because he
three.
obviously two defeats prior to his last one, but it was Ballymac Kamala and Bouncing Monarch both in the Champion Stakes. But prior to that, could you tell me what dog beat him in Shelburne Park?
Well, I knew that Bronson Sid was obviously the one to beat him in thing, but
At Kilkenny, yeah. First round of
Epic
last year's
Ace,
Derby.
Epic Ace.
Correct. Yes,
Yeah,
correct.
Epic Ace. I remember it was an unbelievable race.
Great
Yeah,
battle. Great
yeah,
battle.
great
Yeah.
battle. Yeah, I remember it now. Yeah, but yeah, no, look, it was brilliant for him to. It was brilliant for him to strut his stuff. You're obviously very confident on the next round. We'll come to the next round. I'd love him to win. I don't think it's a foregone conclusion, but that's because there's a dog in the race I really like. I probably like him more than most, and I love his draw. So, and that's what we want to see. Do you know what I want? You want to see
You might as well just say Crossfield Matt now, right?
Crossfield Matt, yeah. So there's me value pick. But no, it's not my value pick for the round. But I just think that Crossfield Matt's a good dog from when he's drawn near the fence because
From top one, yeah.
He's
Yeah.
short, hard to
Um,
win, but anyway.
Obviously, we've touched upon all the heats, so we won't sort of retrace
Yeah.
old ground at this stage. Kevin, Tommy, is there anything else you want to mention from Friday night? We'll just take a glance through then Saturday night. Obviously there was loads of good performances. Just want to name the heat winners. Ballyhooly Cliff got the better of Roran O'Gara. Roran O'Gara could be upgraded for the run, clipped at the third bend. First past the post, showed terrific early speed. Got the better of Groucho's Frank, who stayed on really strongly. Looks like a real 5'7", 5'7", 600 yard dog. Groucho's Frank. Colgan Norman, we've spoken about it already. One of the great scenes of the opening round was Karen Gagan cheering her charge on. Got a great reception on social media. Timmy's Books. Again, I'm the chairman of a few fan clubs, but I'm certainly a member of the Timmy's Books fan clubs. Tommy, he was in second spot, running on like a train. Silent Noel got the better of Razzle Dazzle Telma and Droopy's Monk. Droopy's Monk, big eye catcher, really exciting youngster, lads. We've spoken of him before, Tommy. He has terrific early speed. He's not the finished article by any stretch of the imagination. He is a sign of ace, and I've said this a couple of times that they can sometimes just be a little bit hit and miss at the boxes, but by God, when he hits the ground, he can run. I was a real eye-catching run from him, but Silent Noel, a good winner. Solo and Go and Lenny's Dynamic, we've mentioned them. Three, Ballymac Kamala, hard work for her. I've no doubt she will come on a site for it. You'd hope she would. Oriental King. Actually, we probably should touch upon Oriental King beating Hackney Plan and Ballycowan Frank. Tommy, you're the biggest fan in Ireland for Ballycowan Frank. I'm sure he has a fairly extensive fan club. Just given the form he's been in, he's been exceptional. He's been one of the best in training. But on this occasion, Hackney Plan got first run on him, and he made the wrong choice, probably around the bottom two bends, to try and challenge on the outside rather than trying to wait for a gap up the inside. Oriental King got that gap up the inside, but I thought this was a big moment for Oriental King in his career. This was comfortably his best display. Coming from behind to beat two dogs like that in 29:38. He's just one now that made me stand up and notice.
Yeah, there were a few of them in the first round, but that was a hell of a. Well, actually, I liked all three of them here. Somebody said to me, and even Midra's opinion was flying home, as you'd expect. Somebody said to me, "Oh, Ballycowan Frank was very disappointing." I thought, Jesus, it's a perfectly good opening salvo. I mean, to finish third there, not beaten far. I can't see. You'd want an overhead camera to see what happened at the third bend and why he didn't go round, or did he try to come too tight, or what happened. It's impossible to know. But I mean, I wouldn't be unhappy with that performance at all. I thought Hackney Plan showed a lot of pace early, and Orient King actually had to bide his time, which Ballycount didn't do. As you said, he had to bide his time to get his run. So, like, that's an even better run than the 29:38 looks. That's what I've done comments for myself on all the heats for next week, and that's one of the things I said. This is even better than the 29:38, which is a hell of a run anyway.
Yeah.
To the level of competition and the fact that it wasn't just a clear run through. So I liked all three of those actually. I thought Hackney Plan as well was a bit of the pace, the early pace was impressive.
Considering that's not what his game was when he was known as Cushy Flight Plan, he was more of a strong run.
Yeah,
He
yeah, yeah,
found
yeah,
that
yeah.
yard of early. Kevin, this is where you tell us he's one of 1,400 dogs you tried to buy last year.
My list is a lot more select than that, but I'll
It's
say I wasn't.
1,300.
I wasn't probably the only one. Yeah, look, he's a monster talent. Um, he obviously started his career below in Clonmel, and some of the runs he done in Thurles recently have been eye catching, and even the trial. I've been informed that the night that he done the trial, I don't think was one of the quicker nights that he was doing.
Mhm.
The trial runs were posted, so um, a monstrously fast greyhound. Now, can he turn where he turned the other night every night is going to be the key for him. I know people will be drawn to the fact he came from behind Ballycount Frank and Hackney Plan. He's got that in his engine. I'm not saying that he'll come from behind Ballycount Frank all the time, but he won't have to. But he will have to put himself in a position, very like waiting for a star, these type of dogs. Um, the
Well, we
key,
can skip ahead a few days and tell you that he's going to be 6 or 7 to 1, maybe even 8 to 1 to win the second round heat. So
yeah.
again, he's up against it. He's going to have to do things right, and there's no room for error anymore. Like it's three to qualify from here on in.
Yeah, the big thing for him though is like I'm talking about for winning the race, turning third or fourth. I don't know how you keep him out of the first three. If
Mm.
he gets a clear one, like regard even if he misses the break and there's a 3:55, like he's like Tommy said, like this dog will go around Shelburne doing 29 low 30s in his sleep. He's that fast, but it's for winning the Derby, as I tried to do with Boyle Sports Bob and came close a couple of times, only running into the likes of Bocco's Diamond and the cheap sandwiches and them. But he, the key to these dogs is just get a clear run early and try landing a pitch that you're within 2 or 3 lengths to challenge. And he was able to do that the other night, and I was delighted because. In all honesty, even though I couldn't buy it, I didn't end up buying him. I was happy to leave him there because it was for the right reasons. There were a big family involved, and some wanted to sell and some didn't. And I'd hate to have seen him part if that when that happened. So when they were happy to keep him, I genuinely wanted him to do really well. And I'd love nothing more than see this dog go on to bigger and better things. So he's a dog I've always followed, and I hope the Ryans have great fun with him. But he's very fast.
Yeah, judging by the amount of phone calls I got looking for their phone number at the time, I think plenty of people asked about him. Ballier Warrior was a good winner of Heat 8. I saw this fellow winning an A1 contest competition in Shelburne. He did terrific splits. He did a 28-17 and 28-31 in victory. He went to Pat Buckley, had a bit of a setback, spoke to Pat briefly, told me that he was hoping to get a couple of races into him before the Derby, just had a little bit of setback, so just had to go straight into the Derby. He said he'll come on the site for it. He did a 3:35, a 16:95. Just one of those dogs where, people will be sort of capable of just taking it at face value, and then you go, hang on now, if this fella does improve on that, he could develop into a serious greyhound, could easily be in the quarterfinals, semi-finals of Derby. Face a tough enough test the next night. He's got Lenny's Eddie to take on, and we'll get to that, I'm sure. But just a fine display from him in terms of early speed. Low profile return to what we saw of low profile prior to the English Derby. This is more like it from him. He got a great draw. I'm here, one of the big eye catchers in the opening round, completely walked in traps. First time in the 550-yard boxes. The pace and a bit of track craft. Oh yeah, I like him. He can run. Lenny's James Mack back in third, 29.46. Bocco's Diamond we've mentioned. Bombay Special, one of the flying bitches, beat another flying bitch in Ballydoyle Tina, and indeed Droopy's Faithful, who in third was perhaps one of the eye catchers of the round. She's a change of seating next time out.
Yeah, there's three changes.
Go ahead.
Yeah, there's three changes. I think there's three changes of seating
Four changes.
for
Four changes.
four, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that like that one. I was thinking maybe I really like that performance by Droopy's Faithful in defeat, and I was thinking, you know what, I could back her to be top bitch. And then I saw the change of seating and went, yeah, I don't mind it too much, but I don't know that they wanted to be in trap one either, which they're in the next round. And that's my
of the four seeding changes, three of them got the extremes, right?
Yeah,
So
they all went into one.
you're talking Droopy's Faithful's in one,
Skywalker Bruno,
Skywalker Bruno's in one,
and then
and
the Razzle Dazzle bitch.
L'Oreal out in six.
Yeah,
and Russell Dazzle's in the middle as well, not a wide. They got
yeah.
six. Yeah,
Yeah. Oh, I'm
yes.
a blast off Heffo. I think he's out in
Heffo,
five.
yeah.
Obviously, that's where he could be drawn. But yeah, I'd sooner in three myself. I'd say to be honest, all you name every one of those dogs. Trap three is their box, and therein lies the issue.
The encouragement for Droopy's Faithful is that it wasn't like the Easter Cup. When she didn't lead, and she didn't lead this time, and you thought if you see what happened in the Easter Cup, and then she was just stopping in the last
Holding off
25
the
yards.
last bend. It was a point Kevin made. It was a point Kevin made the other night. I'm glad you were watching, Tommy. Her stride notably shortened for those few races, sort of the start, of the year, and it wasn't a cramp. It looked different. Whereas the other night, you say she strode out the line. She actually threw away her chances maybe at the first bend and the third bend. She'd taken a tumble in her previous start. So she's just watching her stride. But very interesting to see how she handles it from the inside. You suspect she might just get a clearer passage in terms of her own mind. If she's nothing on her inside, it could make a huge difference to her. And hopefully the change of seating will really play to her strengths. And then a mighty impressive heat winner of 12. And that was Ballymacgwenny, another flying lady. I thought Razzle Dazzle L'Oreal ran an absolute blinder in second spot, and while she is in trap six the next night, she'll be pretty short. I suspect she'll be returning to winning ways fairly sharpish.
Well, I watched her. I think she's raced out of trap five a couple of times, maybe on debut and once since, and she runs an honest line. From that side, that type of draw. So I mean, like one was never going to suit. So she actually ran a cracker to finish second the other night.
Yeah, it'd be remiss of me not to mention this heat, Kevin, because you said it the other night. We'll have to talk to Tommy Lyons about In the Sunset. This thing came home like an absolute express train. He's 80 pounds, but he looked about 88 pounds the way he was coming home. He's such an eye catcher. Fast dog?
Very fast dog, actually. And one of the big price in Curryheen Park only a couple of weeks ago, I think it was around, but 10 to 1 return.
10 to 1, yeah.
you were kind of looking at it when the night it beat Shut in the Dark would be kind of a good kind of a gauge of where you stand. Um, when it beat Shut in the Dark, you thought, oh, look at this. It was a bit messy up front, and he kind of picked them off. But it's just an improving dog. It's just an improving dog with a lot of pace. Lacks a little bit of early pace, obviously. It's like what you saw the other night. It mightn't be as extreme as that badly lacking early pace, but there is certainly it's somewhat in keeping what we'd seen in Curry and Barton. But fast dog.
Options. Like even if he gets knocked out of the derby, like you'd be tempted to come back for a 575, 600 with him. Like the way he's
Definitely.
coming home, like he looks made for Shelburne.
Yeah.
A phrase I've used only once or twice in the past ever. We move on to E13, on to Saturday night's action briefly. Bouncing Monarch. Did we speak enough about him? It was everything you want from the sort of dog disputing favoritism for the derby. He pops out in a race where there was a bit of early speed. Now, as it was, New In Spot missed the kick. He was a concern for me, New In Spot, because he's a bit of a, as I said it to Kevin the other night, he's a bit of a tap dancer in the boxes, and he makes plenty of noise. He missed the kick. It wasn't his rivals that missed the kick. Bouncing Monarch quickly got the better of Cracking Cody. Ballymac Chef ran through the pack to get second, but albeit nearly a dozen lengths behind Bouncing Monarch, who does a 16.91 and a 29.10 off at 3:43. Which is good running. There's no question it's good running, Tommy. I think just given the fact that it's Michael O'Donovan, they're not going to make mistakes with this dog. You suspect he's in the right position in the betting.
Yeah, he is in the right position in the betting, but because he looks uncomplicated. Um, yeah, it was a perfectly good performance, and it didn't look razor sharp, despite the 29-10. It didn't look absolutely I was in the perfect position for the Kirby final. I mean, I was standing right in front of the traps and see a dog come out of the traps the way he came out that night. No surprise it was a 27, whatever it was, 82 or something, or 78 or something ridiculous. It was
Well,
no
his
surprise
his
that
his
night.
his 113 in the Kirby would equate to
Yeah.
over 330 in Shelburne.
320.
330,
That's
330.
insane.
No, no,
That
no.
no, no, no,
I'm
no,
with
no, no,
Tommy. I'm with Tommy. That's
no
a
way.
the 113, the 128 in Limerick is absolutely. JK flight on a 127. I didn't think it was possible to come. I don't know how. I have no idea. Like that clock, that split, no Greyhound must have ever got within 5 spots of six ever.
I was standing in front of that box that night. I have never seen anything like it. I have
I
never.
don't. There's a
It was
challenge to
insane.
Ian. Come back to us next week with the second fastest split clock ever done in Limerick, and I don't think it'll be
I'll be
something.
honest now, lads. I have better things to be doing.
There was actually a graded dog. I think on the night maybe did something really ridiculous. I think it had broken the record for the section and the first race maybe that night in Limerick, and then Bouncing Monarch broke it again, smashed it again. It might even have been a grade, or might even have been an open a race that, but it flew out. But like Ian, honestly, like a lot of dogs can do 330. No dogs can do 113 in Limerick. Honestly, that's like
I dare you to find 5 dogs in history that have done 330.
the 325 done in Shelburne.
That's the record.
322, I'd say as well.
No, I think 325 is the record. I think
Who
Oh,
done
I
that?
don't know.
Who done
the
it?
Clona dog that won the Easter Cup, Clona
Duke.
Clona
I
Blaze.
think
Oh, Clone Blaze.
I
Why?
think there's a
Yeah.
Mm.
maybe I'm wrong.
Anyway,
That was a
we'll move on.
322.
Ballymac Chef was second. Bouncing Monarch, just a great start to his derby. Colours are green. What a buckle himself and Gaytime Clyde.
Is
I
it?
thought
Is
both of
this a
them
new
after.
string to his bow? Ian? This is a
Huh?
new string to his bow. This is like if you're ever going to get into a book like, and if you're ever going to be found out over 550, if you're ever going to be found out in a race, this is a night to get found out. I
Mm.
mean, Gaytime Clyde did not want to let him go. Did not want to let him by. He was trying everything to get by him. I've written down for the comments for next week. Led past, led again, and that's what it was. That's what it was like. It was just like. What a great attitude to win a race. My God, 29 and do it in 29:39. If that was 29:79, you would have said, them two were holding each other because they were bumping the whole way around. They were so tight together.
Yeah.
Like it was just a savage race to do. And the clock to come up like that, I couldn't believe it.
Well, I made Gaytime Clyde on this back of this run one of my better bets for the second round because I just felt that he showed all you want to show. He showed great early speed to
Oh.
get the better colours green into the corner. He ran a great third bend to get the better colours of green again. You're thinking, oh, Grant, you've won the race twice, and colours of green went, no, hang on. I'm winning this. And it was just a great buckle. Ballyhooly Bruno is back in third. Obviously, he's going to need to be sharper, but it was great to see him running so well in defeat. Sing Along Cherry popped out, did everything right. Great run from her. Priceless Romeo, we've spoken about him at length. Kevin, he just like set your watch by him 29:45, 29:49, 29:46, 29:49 his last two starts. And that's his sort of running, but he's capable probably going a bit faster as well. He's always going to be a player. He'll be around a 4 or 5 to 1 chance again the next night, and I'm sure if he wins, you'll be telling me again, he's the highly disrespected Greyhound, always giving out to me. Harvard Square was in second spot, the maiden Derby champion. He's just stretched by those last sort of 50 yards. And Miami Hands back in third. He's running well, Miami Hands. Kapuka Coley got the better of Sober Barry. A good one too for Carl Ramsbottom. Carl had a double on the night, and it's great to see him arriving out. The daughters are with him, and your family picture taken. I love the fact that it means something. You know what I mean? It's not business as usual. Like, it really does mean something, and that's Carol's sort of personality. He's one of life's great optimists and great characters. And for him to have a 1-2 with Coley and Barry, I'm sure it was a very special night for the family.
Ah, yeah, look, Carl is obviously local to me here, and we rub shoulders inside in Kilkenny track nearly every Friday night, and it doesn't matter if Carl's in an A4 and A5 when they hit the front, he'll let out an owl roar, and you know what I mean. That tells you what it means to him. And then going up to Dublin, and I just thought it was brilliant watching the daughters come in weighing in them dogs, and a girl there no more than 6 or 7, and she was the boss. She was the boss at the end of the lead. She wasn't going to be messed about, and
As a
plenty.
man that lives with 4 women, I can tell you they're always the boss.
Yeah, but no, look, and for Carl, they were unlucky the night before. I think he had two runners, and the two of them went out. And then for the fortunes to turn on Saturday night in that way, and like these dogs, they're not forlorn hopes. Do you know what I mean? Like Capuca Coley has been a revelation since the start of his career. I saw him in the Red Mills in Kenny, was awesome. Finalist of the Puppy Derby. Staying out wide, he'll stay out of trouble most nights. He has enough early to get out of trouble. Sober Barry's, I think he's capable of taking lengths off his time, because he's a real front runner. This that'll do 16:90 to the third bend, and do a
Mhm.
3:38 in Dublin as well. Make no mistake about it. And obviously, Amadeus Hulk at the end in a very similar mold to the Sober Barry dog, all early. So these three, they all have squeaks for Carl. So yeah, delighted to see him in there.
Yeah, Kapuka Cody did a 3:47. He has a 2:05 recently enough for the 5:25. So I would suspect he can do a 3:40 or, around there and that. And that can put him into the race a bit quicker because he was a bit dependent on getting the run around the outside of them. Obviously, a little bit of rubbing on the inside helped him, but he carried his momentum into the back straight. But he is very strong. He's just a real good all rounder. Very much like his sire, Sober Glory was a bit like that, Tommy. From a couple of handful of bitches, not even a handful. He's producing some really fast greyhounds like Kapuka Coley, very much in his guise. He was a member of a very fast litter himself, Sober Glory. Or Coley. I agree with your Sober Barry. There was a little bit of rubbing with him on the inside of the track. He could definitely go much faster than that 17:19. So just don't be surprised if he does close to the 17 seconds or better
I think
going forward.
Yeah, I think that was a good heat. I think Trent
Yeah.
Muir ran a cracker as well, and I think Sober Barry had to show a lot of bravery to kind of stay in contention, even to finish second.
He, he's he's
That's
he's he's added a bow to his repertoire because the night in the Champions Stakes, like you wouldn't have bet him at 100 to 1 at the third bend in the semi-finals. And he
mm,
took again because he had been headed, remember, by Glengar Kane. He came back at him, led on the run in to win by 2 lengths. Like, I would never have seen that from him 2 months ago, shall we
I
say.
I like down. I actually thought there was something wrong going down the back of him. Thought that he wasn't right or something. He's going to end up
Mm.
finishing fourth or fifth and tail off. And we say, oh, just a little bit sore. He'd be grand in a couple of weeks. And then he just battled on again and battled on again. It's a brave effort because Capuli
You
Coley
can't.
has a touch of class. And I would say actually just a dog you did mention there a second ago, and we didn't kind of talk about. So I like the performance of Glengar Kane in defeat, and
Yeah.
also that final heat the other night. That has got to be the biggest tricast ever in Irish Greyhound racing. 20 to 1 beats 100 to 1 beats 66 to 1. That's just
Yeah. Paid 160 in the tote.
yeah, I know.
I think it
You'd be
paid, I
talking to
think
yourself, wouldn't you?
I think it paid 1,800 off course with the
Yeah, I
odds
saw that. Yeah, yeah.
whatever it is. Yeah. That's one of those things. That's just one of those
Yeah,
things.
yeah, you're pool betting, pool betting. That's
Yeah.
the joys.
Um, we're going to have to touch upon Heat 18 because Ballymac De Niro is now second favourite for Derby Glory. And Tommy, while he wasn't the sharpest at traps, he showed all the pace and power, strength. Just, it, how would you say it? Like, he's taken on some good dogs here. Lone Calling went around in front, but it was sort of men versus boys, or in this case, men versus a girl. Like he
Oh,
just he just pulverized them when he got loose.
He did because there's like there's a kind of a swagger about the dog of ability. Like this is kind of a like I've just got stupid ability. Like, and let's be honest about it. I can do whatever I like. The pace up into the bend, the pace down the back, the pace everywhere. Although I have to say, lone calling, my God, that's some effort in defeat as well. I thought like lone calling hasn't had much racing recently, and Long Calling showed some pace. And actually, would you believe where you thought this is a certainty she's going to fade away now and be beaten 10 to be only beaten 5 by a dog doing 29.23. And of course, he could do 28.93 or 28.83, maybe
Mhm.
the Nero dog.
Said that's Kevin the other night. He used the one dog where you go, he could get close to the clock with the start.
Oh, yeah. If you, yeah, he definitely could if he could just if he broke a little bit better. But like when you got the ability he has, it was silly. It was a kind of a silly performance, I say in one way, because I know he's fives on, but when you can miss the kick and you just make it look effortless to get yourself into a position to go and win the race, and then, but I tell you, I wouldn't sleep on Lone Calling now. That she's going to improve a ton for that race. A ton. The early pace was brilliant, and I tell you, I'm sure she has more down the back. I mean, the fact that we'll look back probably later on in the competition and go, how the hell did he catch her so quickly and go so far clear in such a short space of time? Because I don't think he was going away to the line. I think she was actually finding a bit extra up the straight. So we'll look back at that and go, you know what? The fact that he was able to do it the lone calling, we kind of slept on it a little bit. Now I know he's towards the top of the market and all that, but it's a hell of a display, despite the fact that it's not paw perfect. It's a hell of a display because I would rate her. I would rate her highly. I'm wildly impressed with her effort.
Yeah, Kevin, we've touched upon him obviously enough. He is immensely talented, but until you see them sort of producing it at Shelburne Park, this was his first Shelburne Park run. Not a bad introduction.
No, I know they were quite keen after Toaster to get him up there. That because he'd never been to Shelburne, obviously, and look, he you used the phrase the whole time, "Dogs made for Shelburne," like, and he is, you know what I mean?
I've only used it a couple of times in history, I'd say.
But
Yeah, overplay it.
I don't think there's a track this dog wouldn't run.
No, no, no.
I just think he'd run from any trap, any track. We had the job of trying to compete with him over in Toaster, so I know firsthand how difficult he is to beat, and and like I know how good Eddie is, and Eddie, there wasn't an inch left in Eddie to like performance wise. He couldn't have done anything an inch better in Toaster.
Mm,
Yes, he was all out to hold off De Niro.
Yeah,
And De Niro tried to take him going into the first bend. Eddie was in his way, challenged him off the second bend. Eddie was where he wanted to be the third bend, and even off the last bend. So Eddie doing everything 100% right was what it took to beat De Niro. Look, he's a wonderful talent. And the game we need these type of dogs. And like you said, I think if he does do a 3:30 odd split, it will be a matter of how far and what will be the clock. He'll be racing the clock the night he does it. I can't wait to see this dog take on Ballycount Frank. Or sorry, Bouncing Monarch, sorry. I
yeah,
just can't wait. I just think
stick Ballycount Frank in there isn't a bad race either.
I know exactly,
Just,
but I just think these two, there's just something about Bouncing Monarch and De Niro at the moment. I think they're rightly at the top end of the betting, but they're just so professional. They just do everything really good. And I have no idea if the two of these locked horns off the second bend, lockstep, who wins. And
yeah.
that's what I want to see.
They have something. It's called swagger.
Yeah.
There's a real sort of there's a real charisma to them. There's a real just an ease of movement. There's
Mm.
just something special about them, no question about it. I just want to mention here, obviously Miami Highland third and Ballymac Hitman actually qualified in fourth. There's much better to come from him. He's an
yeah.
exciting youngster as well. Callaway Kinnegar was last. And that, I'm afraid, will be his last race. He's done and dusted. He will be retired now. I think he picked up a small niggle the other evening, but they felt he's nothing more to prove. And that's that with Callaway Kinnegar. And while we've seen glimpses of his best over the last year and a half, it's hard not to remember back to his Juvenile Derby campaign when he had the world at his feet. He was a sensational winner of the Juvenile Derby. And while he wasn't at his best through the following Derby campaign a couple of months later, he still managed to finish third behind Bocco's Diamond and cheap sandwiches. An unbelievable effort from a dog who at the time was, just not fully right. You got that sense. A dog with immense talent, bred in the purple, Sydney out of Droopy Sweet. I'm sure he'll breed some bitches, and I'm sure he'll throw a flying machine. But I just want to recognise the fact that this was the end for Callaway Kinnegear, and what a star and what a servant he's been.
No, I'd echo that in because that even the juvenile derby performance obviously, but that derby final to be beaten nothing in one of the best derby finals for a very long time. I mean, what a star! And to keep going, like there were, you know, there were signs in recently of really good, there were really good efforts there, really good performances over, or was it 600, and he was just a terrific dog. It's just a shame it never seemed after the Puppy Derby, despite the fact he was beaten so little behind Bacchus Diamond and Chief Sandwich, it never seemed that he was fully they were ever fully happy with him, if you know what I mean.
Hmm.
And
Yeah,
just testament to how good he was, and how what he might have been.
yeah, unbelievable. Kevin.
Ah, yeah. Look, he's been a brilliant greyhound, and the other night it was almost like what Tommy's saying. We never saw him really trapping, I suppose, as good as he did in the juvenile derby. After that, that was causing problems in the derby that he got to the final of. And the other night, I don't think he's ever left the 550-yard boxes quicker.
Yeah,
He
he was in a lovely
absolutely
position
winged
actually. He got
it.
badly done. Yeah.
Yeah, and he collided with three, and that nearly, I'd say that's when things just went wrong. It was probably at that moment, and yeah, look, he owes them nothing, and I'm sure he'll go to a great retirement, and yeah, hopefully he'll throw a couple of a couple of progeny as good as himself.
Yeah, that would be nice. Heat 19 went to Shotgun Des, good early speed. Great to see him back. I think he'll come on a side for it. He's been very lightly raced this year. Just love the way this dog goes about things. He's a great dog into a corner. He's also a great dog to run a corner. And that was evident the other night. He holds on from sure exile. Again, one of those dogs where you really could just set your watch by. He was so consistent. Sawdust Barry and Glengar Phantom followed them through. Skywalker Bruno got the better of JK Fly. You suspect that JK Fly was feeling something. 29.63, he'd done 29.40 in his previous start, and while he might have needed a run, Kevin, it was probably obvious that something was just slightly amiss. Ballymac Charbel ran on really strong to grab second, but a good run from Skywalker Bruno. It's interesting to see how he will run from Trap 1 the next night. Hackney Dancer got loose early in Heat 21 for Michael O'Donovan, completing a treble on the night for Michael, was it, or did he complete it later? No, that was the treble for Michael O'Donovan. Just a really fine display from a dog who certainly loves Shelburne Park. This was where he really caught the eye in the early part of his career. And his return to Shelburne Park, he does everything right. 17-12, 29-37. Groucho's Chief is second, continues to show real promise. Bocco Sapphire came in as a reserve to qualify as the Crossfield Mac back in fourth. Then we were waiting for a star, an immensely fast greyhound. I joked the other night, we should be naming him waiting for a gap because he does find himself in behind dogs, waiting for the gap to appear on a lot of occasions. And this time, I sort of liked the way he came around the outside to make his challenge. Got there on the line to beat Slippery Brian, who I felt ran a big race. I think he'll come on a side for that. I thought he tired up. I thought he was greatly overpriced by one of the firms for next week. I think he's a big life next time out. Sleight of hand, we've already mentioned at length, beating Weekend James, who of course a big eye catcher. Up £3 has to be said. He can only become emerged fitter for that, and the other Emer back in third. And then the final heat of the round went to Amadeus Hulk, and this is a heat where we do have to mention them. We're sort of running out of time for our preview, but Amadeus Hulk got loose, beating Grange Rocco and Ballymac C-Max, and you think, okay, that's good display. And then you realize the three dogs that were fourth, fifth, and sixth. Kevin, you probably saw very little of what was happening up front. I know you were keeping an eye on Lenny Zeddy for his effort to get fourth spot. It's huge. We have to mention Amadeus Hulk, though, firstly. A dog with blinding early speed, and to hold Fate Point Ranger into the corner is no mean feat. And with all the noise, you tend to nearly not talk about the first three because of what was happening in behind. But it is worth pointing out that Amadeus Hulk had to show the early speed to lead this field, and that in itself is some achievement.
Oh yeah, and like I said, he was the one in the. I know the eyes were obviously drawn to the so-called battle between the even traps, but he was the real fly in the ointment because the night that he done the 28-18 or whatever, like he absolutely rocketed up the inside that night. And I obviously Satanta Fairpoint Ranger, I know had won the week previous, but he'd been off a long time, and Eddie obviously had been off a good while. So there was always the likelihood that those three were probably going to be a little bit fresh, and it could just take one of them taking a flyer, and Amadeus Hulk was the one on paper that looked the most dangerous, and it turned out that way. He absolutely flew out, and like it's like you said, I'm glad you said it. It's easy to get distracted by the three out the back, but take nothing away from the three up front. Like Amadeus Hulk, I know he tied up considerably. He'll probably just need to get used to this 550 and strengthen up a bit. He'll need to, but another one of those who can do 1690 to the third bend. He's got real electric early speed. Greg Rocco, I'm pretty sure was a trial stake winner. You know, battled away up there after a not so good start, and Ballymac C-Mac showed all sorts of pace in behind as well. Like she's only 2.5 in front of Eddie off the second bend, and she still finishes.
She's
You
a
know,
half sister too. She's a half sister to Solo and Go.
yeah, she
Mm.
doesn't a different running style. It says she's a bit stronger than
Yeah,
more than
she's
an
bit,
early pacer.
she's a bit of an all rounder. Yeah, but
Yeah, no, she only
listen,
had four or
after
five.
five starts, it's hard to know. She's only a February whelp. She
Yeah,
could turn into a flying early pacer yet. You know.
yeah, she's loads of gears now. So
Mm.
yeah, they were. I thought they all ran very very well up front.
Yeah, Tommy, anything else to add before we move on?
I like C Max's run. Then Lenny's Eddie. Like if you're going to have a little bit of luck, and obviously you need plenty of luck to go and win an Irish Derby, having won the English Derby. But he got it there with Fay Point Ranger just fading so badly in the straight. Slightly looked like maybe slightly cramping, even maybe I don't know, just a stride change for Fay Point Ranger in the closing stages. And Lenny's Eddie got up. It's a shame to see. It was great to see him qualifying because it's a shame to see Ballymax Tanta out of the competition because he could have been a real player. There's always a risk having run for a while, especially a dog of his style of racing, that if things go wrong, they can go very wrong. And unfortunately, they did on the night. Winner, plenty of credit. Ballymax, C-Max in third. I thought I like that run. Thought I had a great chance actually next week. It's waiting for a star as well. That race, that was a hot race. Like Berlin Trilogy, Carrie Whit can go up. We've been watching her run in Curraheen. Gay Time Joachim. It's a hell of a run from waiting for a star to get up, despite the fact that things didn't go right. Obviously, you're going to have to sharpen up, or he'll win nothing. But like, God, he's got some ability.
Massive ability. Really does have massive ability. Absolutely no question about it. Gentlemen, we won't have time to look through all the heats, but we will sort of pick up on the highlights. The opening heat, we saw Dribby's Faithfuls in Trap 1. You know, we have the likes of Bocco's Golden 3, Berlin Trilogy, Sober Barry, Price's Romeo. Just a brief thought, Tommy, just one line.
Well, look, we didn't talk about Bucket Gold. I don't think even when he did the 2907 that he's flying out of boxes the same way he'd been flying out of boxes in Limerick. Always a concern when it was the same the other night. This is probably a good chance to try get away and get in front and go and do a fast time again because he's drawn the right side of Berlin Trilogy. So I think he's going to be hard to beat.
He lost a lot of ground very quickly the other night. I just
Yeah.
wonder, is he liking traffic at present? Is he just he needs a clear? That's what we said before
He,
he got
he,
cleared the previous night. I just think I think he's a dog now. Sort of
well,
there was another one of them. Rural was a rural, not rural pest. What was the rural dog a couple of years ago? And I just said it a few times. If there's dogs around him, you don't get the best out of him. I wonder his goal.
you
Hmm?
You're 100% right, and he's a big enough dog to mind himself. But you're 100% right. He definitely hesitated going to the first bend the other night, but I just think there's a great chance to clear the two inside him, and you might see the dog that won the 2907. You might see him again. It's a good heat. Price's Romeo ran a cracker today. Sober Barry and Berlin Trilogy. Like there's all good dogs in it, but
Crap.
they're on the right side of him. They're on the right
Yeah.
side of him. I
Crack
hope Truby's
contest.
Faithful qualifies because I'm a big fan of Truby's
We all
Faithful.
are. He too, Eleni's Dynamic will now be a hot favourite, Kevin, but nothing can be taken for granted here. Roran O'Gara has absolutely roared to the corner his last two starts. Unassuming can improve a sight for what she did solo and go. Obviously, hugely impressive. He beat Lenny's Dynamic last time out. And Glengar Kane, again, Tommy said it, he ran a much more encouraging race in defeat the last night. Ran a big run now. Obviously, he doesn't want to be out in trap five. You'll be hoping he edges inwards. But if Lenny's Dynamic traps, you suspect he'll be right bang there on the corner, and he should be keeping his line.
Oh yeah, well we know that it's keeping his line. He nearly went out in the grass, merged the night going to the bend. I don't know what he was trying to do, but yeah, I don't really. I think look, Glengar Kane. I echo Tommy's opinion. I thought that was probably his best race I've ever seen him run. I know he broke the clock in an Escarty, but I was really impressed because I know that this dog is his game is probably going off the front, and he just couldn't match Balliet Warrior in the early strides, but which was understandable how he had trapped. But I really liked this run of Glengar Kane. I thought he knuckled down and really stuck in and battled well. I'm intrigued to see what happens out of the boxes because I don't think Solo and Go will edge across. And if Glengar Kane does, they may come together. Roar Nagara will fly up the inside. You'd imagine unassuming will be slot in behind the front four, and any trouble would play into her grasp. But obviously, I'm going to be focused on dynamic and look, if he's very, very short, I wouldn't like to be taking a real short price about him because like Solo and Go beat him on merit last week and Glengar came on a big race. So really, really good race.
I'm really surprised. I really have to see it. A 3:36 there from Glengar Kane. Imagine doing a 3:36 and not leading.
Not leading.
Ballier Warrior does a 3:35. Looking at it, it's probably a 3:37. You know what I mean? Because it looks like it's a bit more than a head between the pair of them. But yeah, just he'll need to be repeating that given the speed that's around him. But that's a fascinating contest. But as I said, Lenny's dynamic will be pretty short. Move on to the third heat. Low profile is a great draw. I think he's been put in as favourite. Long Calling ran well. Ballymac Hitman can do so much better. Bombay Special, I thought she was. I thought it was very much a sign that she's coming back to her very best, and we know how very good she is when she is at her best. I think that's a. I think that's one of those heats where I think the market will change considerably. I think there'll be all sorts of opinions. It'll turn into one of those puzzle heats where it'll nearly be a mark of sort of a mark of skill and shrewdness if you can piece it together. Onto heat four where we have Get Up the Boy, Silent Noel and Roaming Shelby trying to lower the colours of Ballymac De Niro, who will be a very short price favourite. Anything that Silent Noel does in early yards, if she's stepping inwards at all, it will play to the strengths of Ballymac De Niro. I suspect he'll come out on top. Get Up the Boy ran an absolutely remarkable run in the opening race. We never actually mentioned him too much. We were focused too much on Bacchus Diamond, but big run from him, Tommy. We know you're a huge fan. Yeah, De Niro will win. You'd suspect if he does things right, but just enough quality there just to concern him.
Yeah, well, concern. I mean, if he's going to win a derby, he's going to do this right. Yeah, Get Up the Boy. It was the tracking, walked out, the tracking around the first two bends, decide to step out. As long as you get experience at the very top level, you can learn how to do these things properly. I do like Long Calling in the previous heat. Just take a chance that she maybe not 100% next week because she's entitled to be getting fitter at runs. But I thought there's a great chance she can lead low profile. He's not always an electric area pacer, and she certainly is.
He's one that short odds you can always take on. You know what I mean? Because while he has plenty of good form, it's not always consistent. It's not always race after race after race. We move on to heats five. Groucho's Chief will go up strongly in the middle. Slippery Brian and Kapuka Coley draw the eye on the outside. I'll hold my hands up here and say I've already backed something in this race. Back Slippery Brian. One of the firms went 5-1 for this heat. I made him sort of a close second favourite behind Kapuka Coley, and I mean very close second favourite. That's the way I see it.
Yeah, look, it's a good makeup now. I wouldn't rule out Pat. This is sneaky good race, really
Mm.
sneaky good race because Pat's two dogs in two and three.
Yeah.
I think they weren't seen to the best effect. This Groucho's Frank dog, I saw him running in Kilkenny. I said it on the thing with Dewey, and I think he's not a dog till next year. He's only an October pup, and he's just a little bit inconsistent. But mark my words, if he does things right, he's very, very quick. And the Groucho's Chief dog, like he's got some serious early pace. And Hackney Dancer was in again the other night, flew out. If this dog gets off the front, I tell you one thing, he'll make them all work for it because Romeo was all out to catch him. I could make a case for four of them, five of them in this
Yeah.
race. So
No, I,
uh,
I agree with you. I purely was betting prices. I
yeah,
liked what I saw from Slippery Brian in the previous round. If you go back to his best English Derby form, I think he's a big player here. But it's one of those heats where we're losing at least two or three good dogs. Like
yeah,
Ballyhooly Bruno is a classic winner, and yet he'll be 8 or 10 to 1.
yeah.
Yeah, like it's a great heat. I thought Groucho's Frank dog was. I thought he showed a great attitude to turn second because of the fact that he went left from trap four. He's better drawn this time. I thought the attitude just to get around the second. Thought he was very unlucky the last day. Groucho's Chief as well as another one's going to improve. That like you should be getting a price. You should be getting a price here because that is a wide open heat. I would just about look. I just about favour the bottom, but I think Groucho's Frank is a danger.
Yeah, I think Groucho's Frank will need to be sharper at boxes, and I think that's generally we've seen
Can
from
from
his
the draw.
12 starts to date. Now he does have a 29:39 out of Derby competition, which
Yeah.
that tells you he's capable of doing 29:20 in Derby competition, if not better. But he's going to need to do things right at boxes because for all the Bocco Sapphire's not a flying early pacer. She's trappy. She flew out the other night,
Yeah.
and Groucho's Chief, we know how good he is early speed. He's a brother to Drubby's Monk, and the two of them are almost carbon copies of each other. Massive early speed. Just need to brush up in their starting. The next heat, Hackney Plan has a great draw on the fence and will be favourite, but this isn't easy. Hackney Plan not always known as a flying early starter. Yes, he should lead up Mona Lee Mombeg, who looks a stare in the making, but Sword Style is such a professional. Shotgun Des, big professional. Blast Off Heffo can get involved. He charges down the third bend. Kilcolgan Norman, good winner the other night. Even money, or sorry, good winner the other night. He's well housed in the striped jacket, but will want to be every bit as sharp on this occasion. Hackney plan to be favourite. Just wouldn't be surprised if sword style or shotgun Des got first run on him, and all of a sudden it's a different contest. Looking at Heat 7, we've already spoken briefly about this. Lenny Zeddy taking on Ballyea Warrior, and then you have the strong runners, the likes of Coolmount Fame, Ballymac Chef, and Midra's Opinion. Whichever of the early pacers here, Lenny Zeddy or Ballyea Warrior. Now, well, Lenny Zeddy's more than just an early pacer. Obviously, he's a Derby champion, but you are vulnerable if you don't lead. Ballyea Warrior will look to get off the front because if he doesn't lead, he's in trouble with the likes of Coolmount Fame, Ballymac Chef, Midra's Opinion, and Harlequin Geo. His presence, he'll be a big, big price, but he has the early speed to get involved. A cracking contest. Kevin, you'll need to see just a sharper version of Eddie. The fact that he has Coolmount Fame and Ballymac Chef on his flanks can only play to his strengths because you'd suspect he'll lead them up pretty comfortably.
Well, he'll have to there's yeah it's you've got three real early pacers. Well, like you said, Eddie's a bit more all round, I suppose, at this point of his career than maybe Balliol, Warrior and Harlequin Trio. But they're three fair strong runners in behind. Coolmount Fame catches pigeons. Chef similar, in Midra's Opinion, the 600-yard winner. So a tale of two halves, I suppose, going to be in this contest. Yeah, look, hopefully Eddie will start a bit quicker and do what he can. This Balliol Warrior, I seen him in that A1 competition, and like the way I said it to you in the video, the way he trapped the other night, the way he came out like with his head down and underneath, it's a natural starting motion. I'd say that lad is going to, he's like, it wasn't a freak break. I'd say that 335. I'd say if you were to run him 6 or 7 times out of 550-yard boxes, I think he'll break 338, 4 or 5 of them times. Do you know what I mean? I think he's going to be a real consistent lights out starter. If I was to pick one to lead in the if I was to pick what will be the quickest sectional, I'd have a lot of money on Balliol Warrior. I just think he's just the most natural starter out there. So, yeah, lovely race. Hopefully Eddie will run well.
Okay, okay. Tommy, any brief thoughts on that one before we move on?
Yeah, Eddie will win.
Good man. Eighth race, Ballydoyle Teen is well housed in the fence. First past the post to go up strongly. Sing along Cherry is a very different proposition for her. We have Bouncing Monarch, Lenny's James Mackin, and Lemonade Goads. Bouncing Monarch is a hot favourite, and if he does trap like he can, he's going to emerge as the one to beat. But the presence of Ballydoyle Teen first past the post on the inside just won't make life easy for him. But you suspect his quality will see him emerge on top. Anything else to add, guys?
I just worry about first past the post. Sing Long Sherry was on the wall. Like, I mean to say, she was close to where the railing gives way at the 750-yard boxes. She was in danger of going inside it.
Okay.
She was the tightest railer I think I've ever seen going down the back in Shelburne, and she's very trappy. I'd fear for. I think Bouncing Monarch has got the draw of all draws. I know he's drawn out in four, but I think he'll have, and James Mack will stay wide. So I think he's got a brilliant draw and makeup in that race.
Yeah, at a two to
He,
five,
he,
I'll be
he
watching
kind of
on.
he kind of needs it because he's not really a trap forward dog either, Bouncing Monarch. But
Yeah.
well, it's a comfort. It's a comfort to connections to have that draw because he's not a natural trap forward dog.
Yeah, we better race on because we've spent a lot of time talking today. I suspected that was going to happen. Bocco's Diamonds got trap five in Heat 9. The first heat on Saturday night will ensure that the crowd are in early. Crossfield Matt has got a good draw on the fence, but he's going to have to be the old Crossfield Matt. He's going to have to be at his very best because Bocco's Diamond really should be leading up those in his inside, like down to the wire, Ballymac Charbel and Kerlog Jet. You could probably handpick them for him, Kevin. And Bocco's Diamond should win for all that Crossfield Matt can run a big race.
Yeah, look, Baco's Diamond's two's on. Like, I'm not saying there's a
Mm.
better chance of Crossfield Matt beating Baco's Diamond. Like, if Baco's Diamond from this makeup would win this race at 8, 9 times out of 10, you'd expect. But like, I think Crossfield Matt's about the 4-1 mark, and not everyone will want to be betting odds on chances. And I think at 4-1, it's more unfair. This dog was doing runs in the Gold Cup that, like we talked about, colours of green and solo and goal. Like, it was one or two of the rounds. Crossfield Matt was miles ahead of them on the clock. Like, he put some performances in. Now they're always from a really tight to the fence draw. Needs one or two. And I think his trials in Tralee. I know Tralee is very quick at the moment, but like 27.84 there back in May, and even the 28.26 off a stumble that traps comment
Mhm.
on his card. Like, do you know what I mean? So things didn't go right from the other night. He done a 357. If he does a 342 or three and paces up on the inside, he won't lead Bocco's, but if he turns second to him, close enough to him, it'd be race on. And at about 4-1, I thought he was a bit of value.
Yeah, I'm sort of sweet and Gaytime Clyde in the next heat. Just like the way he ran against Colours of Green, showed lovely early speed, having been led early, and I suspect he probably have enough early speed to go around in front in Heat 10. Anyone going to contradict me?
I'm fascinated to see how Skywalker Bruno deals with the trap, because if you watch him the last day, he went straight as a gun barrel for about 50 yards, maybe 75 yards, and then dive left, hard left.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So this could be the makings of him, actually, because the pace he showed last day was savage. Yeah, Gaytime Clyde is Gaytime Clyde. I think it's probably a beatable level.
Hmm.
I think slightly favoured the top.
Well, would you? Okay. I'm a Gaytime Clyde. Make all. He's 11. Ballycowan Frank has been given his draw, but he's going to need it because there's real class around him. Hackney Dancer, the Champion Stakes winner, Ballymac Kamala, Ballymac Gwenny's out in 6. And then you throw in the likes of even Avenue Queen, who ran a buller the other night, but she'll be 20 to 1 or more. And Oriental King is out in 5. This is one of the heats of the round. Obviously, Ballycowan Frank from the draw is likely to start favourite. But if Ballymac Kamala had produced her Champion Stakes run in the opening round, she may well be favoured. It's one of those types of contests where you go, okay, Ballycown Frank is the one to be given the draw, and after 5 strides, you go, we should have expected that from Kamala, or we should have expected that from Gwenny, or whatever. I think it's a cracking contest. I think it's probably the contest of the second round.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the draw might favour Ballymac Kamala for the reason that Hackney Dancer, despite being in trap two the other day, edged in early,
Hmm.
showed early pace and edged in. That's a concern for Ballycam Frank. He can't afford to miss it this time, because he could see his ground taken. Ballymac Kamala, I wasn't impressed with the other night, and wouldn't be thinking about derbies or derby finals with Kamala after that run. And like I know you said earlier on that maybe she should come off with the run, but like of all Liam's dogs, and he's got lots of insane talent down there. Like, she's the one that should be hard fit and ready.
Yeah.
Start the competition. She's doing a lot of racing in the top company. So I'm nice. Like, well, obviously, I'm expecting it's not improvement. I'm just expecting that she'll do better, because she is better than she showed the other night. And look, you have Avenue Queen, who's the slow starter in 4. You got 2 going in left, so it does suit her. But Ballymacgwenny ran some race the other night, and Oriental King. So this is a good heat. I'm going to slightly favour Ballycam Frank. There's no way I'd back him, because I'm afraid Hackney Dancer might just get in the way.
Yeah. No, cracking contest. Kevin, anything else?
Yeah, no, there's no probably about it. The minute this draw was called out in real time, this was the heat of the round, and I'm telling you, I read the race exactly like Tommy reads it. I'd be really concerned for Ballycount Frank. Like, Hankney Dancer is £80, and as Tommy said, moved in, and this is a real trappy sort. And if Kamala, Oriental King, Gwenny, like if they end up in front of him off the second bend, I know how strong Ballycown Frank is, but like how do you pick up Kamala, Oriental King, or Gwenny? And that's not even mentioning Hackley Dancer, who done 29:30. And I'll tell you another thing, that Avenue Queen, I knew very little about her the other night. And I made the comment on the thing what Tommy just made as well, a slow starter. You were right, Ian. You said to me, no, she's got more. She done a 360 the other night, 29:60, and I went back and watched it. She took the paint off the rail around the opening 2 bench. She completely slept in the trap, but showed early. Like, she's 211, 212. She was only a half length behind Lenny's Ash one night in Shelburne. Like,
Yeah.
she is no back of the clock. And the fact she's 25 to 1 in this race, that was a 29:40 run out of her the other night. And she's going to be 25 to 1. This is an absolute nightmare heat, in my opinion, for all 6 connections. It's by far, in my opinion, the best race at around, the deepest race at around. I have no idea what would win it. Going to my head, I'd stick a 5 on Gwenny, just because I think the way she's trapping at the moment, and might stay out of trouble. But there's biggins going to go out with this heat, and I share what Tommy said. I'd be nervous for Ballycount Frank with the presence of Hackney Dancer in two.
Funny enough, Gwenny's the
Hmm.
one I fear
And
for. I fear for Gwenny, because if she
Okay.
doesn't do her 340, I think she could be in trouble.
Okay.
I do think Avenue Queen is a pure trap one, bitch as well. I think that's
Yeah,
that's
she
a
is.
concern,
Well,
because
she
I
was.
actually,
Yeah.
yeah, well, I priced her when I priced the thing for myself last week before the first round. I had her 12 or 14 to 1. And then I looked at the prices later on that day in the firms, and they're all going around about 5 to 1. I was going, geez, I'm after getting this completely wrong. So I went back and looked at her again and again. She's surely going to struggle in trap 4. The only thing is she's strong. She
Mm.
could
Yeah,
just
yeah.
sneak into a place,
No,
because
she,
I
she's
don't know
she's a
how.
she's a really nice bitch. She
Yeah.
caught the eye more than one occasion in Galway, and she had shown a bit in the early rounds in the Oaks. I think I backed her at a big price on one of the nights in the Oaks. Just had seen enough from her to suggest that there was a huge run in her. Sleight of Hand will be favourite in Heat 12, and he's going to take a bit of beating, but there's enough quality around him to keep things interesting. Carrigan Wick can go up faster than she did tonight. Amethyst Hulk will fly up in the
Mm.
sunset, finish like a train. Harvard Square will go up strongly. Ballyhooly Cliff is a real all-rounder, a real strong runner. Just a fascinating enough contest where if you feel that Sleight of Hand can't sort of reproduce that 29-10, there's just enough quality around him to suggest that he could find himself in a battle fairly sharpish. It's a good contest. Nothing will come easy in it. Heat 13. Again, sort of quality all around the place here, but I've sided with I'm here myself. I will be tipping him up on the card. He can't do another 360. If he does, he's in trouble. But if he does like even the 345, I think he's going to be in a lovely position around the opening corners. But he's going to have to probably get around the colours of green, and that's no easy test. And who's to say colours of green won't go faster than 29:39? I think they're the big two in the market. Outside of them, I think Razzle Dazzle Thelma will be suited by an inside draw. In terms of she doesn't have to worry about dogs around her. She can just concentrate and get into the corner as quick as she can. She's very strong. She has a 28:09 on her card for 525 yards, and she actually ran a hell of a race the other night to be beaten only 3 parts of a length by Silent Noel. She boxed out. She couldn't hold her pitch, but from trap one, that probably won't be as much of an issue. Anything to add there, lads?
I think it's a great draw for colours of green because you slow starters either side. And Glengar Phantom's a danger to I'm here because Glengar Phantom actually missed a kick but showed big pace into the bend and then got held wide at a crucial point. Actually, he was running what most wide dogs or middle to wide dogs do anyway, running kind of a more middleish line and got held up and he was making real progress. He's a bit of a sleeper. He ran much better than people might credit him for the other night. So he
For
might
me,
just
he
get
was one of
away. I'm here
for me
definitely.
he was one of the best dogs in the champion unraced. The
Yeah,
Glengar
and
fan.
and I'm here
He was coming
definitely
to hand. Mm.
I'm here definitely edges in.
Yeah, yeah. Sure, Exile go up strongly in the middle as well. You know that.
Mm.
Heat 14. A lot will depend on the opening few strides, but you suspect that Droopy's Monk will get loose, and then it's a case of where does Waiting for a Star find the gap. Kill West Wager well normally would be finishing well. He was in a good position down at the third bend the other night, and actually didn't find an awful lot coming home. But I would suspect Waiting for a Star will pick up Droopy's Monk pretty close to the line, much like it happened on July 25th. Anything
Same.
else?
Yeah,
Same.
it looks that way on paper, doesn't it? Just waiting for a star. Like he'd want to be clever with Harvey on his inside. Like
Yeah.
you
Although
don't want.
Harvey will probably keep a true line from three. If anything, he may even step in. It's
He
not like when he's on the inside, he does tend to step out. I think from trap three, he'd be straight as a gun
Oh
barrel.
no, he will.
He,
But I mean, at the crest of the bend, like for
yeah,
collecting
yeah,
weight
yeah.
per star, like Harry's been around the block. He knows how to take care of himself, and you just wouldn't want waiting for a star on his shoulder at the corner. Now, look, he'd probably be behind him, but I think there's about 5-2 or that available about Druppy's Monk. As much and all as I love waiting for a star, I don't know if I'd be backing him at odds on. I think I'd rather play the dog from the front at a better price for me.
Yeah.
I think
There's no
I think if
question.
you're a
That's
punter,
early. Sorry?
like I think if you're a punter, that's the type of way you have to think when you're betting.
Of
Is
course.
like that. You might get a bit of value that he might get away because I was chatting to a fellow the other night. We were saying that Druppy's Monk might just be a Laurel's dog if he could just get his trapping right because the early pace is savage.
Yeah. It's one of those heats where if you are backing waiting for a star, you're waiting till late and hope that too many people take that view that Droopy's Monk is the value play and he goes to a false price and
Yes,
for
Yeah, yeah.
star goes a bigger price than he should be a 5-4, 6-4, something like that. Because I think I'd be backing him at odds against. We'll move on to Heat 15. I'm pretty sweet in Razzle Dazzle L'Oreal because I think the main danger to is Croydon Avenger, but I don't think he wants to be in four. So I'll be siding with Razzle Dazzle L'Oreal, but she's going to have to be on her toes to not avoid cracking Cody, but just sort of mind him. He did enough early the other night, Kevin, to suggest that that's pretty much his running.
Yeah, look, that was it. He trapped really well from five. If he traps, he'll have to again. But there's plenty of strong runners in this. Yeah, look, I think I'm the same as you. I think L'Oreal is definitely the most likely winner. I have soft spot for that Sober Glory there. I think they can all run, and they're all really good. So outside of that, Croydon Avenger would be the one possibly as well.
Yeah, I'm on
I
Razzle.
quite like the top here, Max C
Like
Max.
the top.
Yeah.
Barry Max. Yeah, she's She obviously knows her way around Shelburne Park. All her 5 runs have been there. She got a great draw, and this is a much easier contest for her than what she's been facing. She should lead up 2-3, and with four as far out as he is, she has a lovely pitch, no question about it. And in the final heat of the round, and we'll have a pretty hot favourite here in Weekend James. You'd suspect he'll sharpen up for the run. You suspect he'll certainly be down a pound or two off his up 3 pounds the other evening. And if he does things right, I think we could see him put himself right into the Derby picture, Kevin. If you want to back him for anti-post, I think this week is the time to do it.
Big time, big time. I, I liked him what he was doing. Obviously, do you know what I mean? It didn't take a genius to spot it. He'd won 5 of his 7 starts, and he'd been in thereabouts in every race apart from the night he got all the trouble. He posted 27.88, beating I'm Here. So he put down some big markers, and he was one to note. But I can't get over how well this dog ran the other night. Because I never had him down. I had him down as a front runner. Now maybe I'm wrong. Maybe
Oh
I'm
yeah,
reading him
no, no.
wrong.
I'll be honest now. I nearly pulled you up on it the other night. He's an engine dog.
Yeah.
He's
Oh no.
absolutely on the back straight and well. And while he has gone up well on a couple of occasions, this is a dog who will stay 5.75 comfortably. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's a real strong runner, but he has that touch of swagger about him as well.
Yeah. When I say a front runner, like he's done 28.15 and 27.88. I know he's got a lot more than just that, but what I mean by it is he's a dog that throughout the Derby I think will lead. I coming into it, I thought he'd lead 4 or 5 of the 6 nights in it. I thought he'd that much early. Like I thought this
No,
fella
yeah,
do.
yeah, no. I
And
would suspect that he might lead 1 or 2 nights if that. And if you go
okay.
back and look at his June 5 run against Kapuka Coley, though, like, that's a remarkable run. Like
Mm.
we know how good Kapuka Coley is. Like this fella lost ground on the opening corner and had to work himself back into it. The pace he showed was absolutely off the charts. Off the charts. He's a
Yeah. Well.
hugely fast greyhound. If he does put things right, and if he does lead 4 out of the 5 nights, I think you could be looking at a potential Derby champion, no question about it. And else to add about the Derby lads before we move on. Like we've been talking a long time here.
Mm.
No, we're done.
I think
Right, we're going to move on quickly because we literally have to cram everything in now to a 3 minute spell. We're going to Dundalk, the Bar One Racing, Bar One Betting Irish Sprint Cup, and two good heat winners. The first heat winner was Rallying Billy, 21-12. It was the first time he really winged the boxes in the competition for Chris Delaney and Dan Flynn, a son of Ballymac cash out of Rallying said so. Put himself in a position to win the race. He's leading into the opening corner. Tirmana Dream, who would have been a pretty hot favourite, ahead of Looking Splendid, to suspect to a second favourite. Looking Splendid walked out. Tirmana Dream missed the kick. Both of them improved into the opening bend. Looking Splendid showed all sorts of pace into the opening corner. As he does, that's his problem. He tends to miss the kick. He arrived with an absolute rattle into the opening bend. Just arrived the wrong time. Rallying Billy could have crossed him. He clipped heels and he hit the deck. Tirmana Dream is sort of bang there in second, goes around second, and Buddy Bruno, who had been well into stride, slightly outpaced into the corner, got through for third. Rallying Billy did everything right to win in 21-12. Good display, but Tirmana Dream in second spot. He'll need to be trapping much better, and we know he can. He's beaten 5 1/4 lengths. Gentlemen, I'm not sure if either of you saw this heat. It's not up online because of the fall to Looking Splendid.
No, I
didn't
haven't.
see it.
It worked out exactly as I said it. Like I'm just a
We
master.
trust you. We
I'm a
trust you.
master at painting a picture.
We trust you.
The second heat you did see, and this was a cracking sprint contest. Juby's Apollo missed the kick completely. He was out of it from the start, but Barefoot of Fire popped out. The other Wild popped out. Bomber Nina was just in behind him, and Montana Secret didn't take a flyer. I really like this display. Obviously, he's a half brother to Broadstrand Sid, who won this competition in the past. He's not quite the same type of dog. Signed at ace, not as trappy perhaps as some, but he showed loads of pace. He's getting the grips of this sprinting game all the time. And the way he went around Bomber Nina on the opening corner and then held her off by a length pretty comfortably, I was really impressed. And in hindsight, he's got a great draw in the final. I think he's the one to beat. Tommy.
Yeah, I thought it was a hell of a run because he missed the kick slightly, showed massive pace up against proper sprinters, and to hold the line, you're losing, especially when you've made that momentum, you picked up, you're into full stride, get into bend, and then you're held up on the bend by being wide or outside the dog. Like it's a much better run than the clock. Superb effort. I would say one thing actually, and I did talk about it with Kevin the other day actually, but I would love to see that sprint moved, the whole competition move back and finish up 3 weeks before the Derby. That's what I would love
Yeah.
because you'd have Derby dogs in there, and it is a sensational. It's the best sprint in Ireland. The two long straights, everything about it is great. And just, I know it would take a lot of rejigging and things to do right, but what a competition that would be to tee up your Derby dogs.
Yeah, you could run it nearly in conjunction with the juvenile derby around that time, but they do have their dates. They have their July 12th and August 15th, and for years and years and years, they've been to tradition. And yeah, listen, obviously it fell into place a couple of years because the derby was moved around, but I suspect that the derby's probably found its slot now. I'd say it'll stick to this. So it's up to the powers that be. I think it's more Dundalk's call than the actual. Like if they said they wanted to move on the calendar, I'd say they'd be facilitated, given the fact that it's a sprint and it wouldn't be taken on too much. Treaty Cup can always be moved a little bit. So I agree with you, Kevin. Montana
Maybe
Secret.
they could swap. Sorry, maybe they could swap the international and the sprint and the dates. Yeah, international and the sprint final. Swap the two
Yeah,
dates.
well, that's the way it used to be. The sprint final used to be July 12th,
Yeah.
and the international used to be August 15th. It was always the August 15th was the international, but again, the derby is different now and whatnot. Kevin.
Yeah, well, now it might work better now to swap them back. Maybe.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Kevin.
Yeah, no, look, Montana Secret has been my idea of a possible winner of this stake for a while. He's a dog I really liked. I've always liked him. I thought some of his runs early in his career, there was plenty of talk about one race that he was doing massive runs for Johnny before Tralee ever started. A little bit disappointed in Tralee, and he's flashed in Cork with some runs, but he's a fair engine, and like he's both said, he's got some savage early. I think on the draw, he's the most likely winner. I just do want to take a minute to acknowledge Barefoot on Fire,
Yeah,
both
yeah,
Barefoot
yeah,
on
yeah.
Fire and his trainer Martin Lanny, not just because of obviously the relationship from a friend's point of view that we have with Martin and stuff like that, but I think Martin said the other night that this is his ninth bar one finalist, and like Martin never has an expensive dog or the hottest pot like, but to get nine dogs,
What did he win it with?
Johnny Gatillo, we bred him.
Ah, good man. I knew you'd have it. I knew you'd have that.
Yeah, so and like this dog got to the Ledger final a couple of years ago nearly now, and like we had him and he was injured even when we sent him up to Martin. He was going to be left off for a couple of months, and he's had a far from ideal career lately with him. But Martin has stuck with him, and he's four and he's four and a half, and he's in the final of a bar one. And if you told
Do you know what he's showing? He's showing real sort of cuteness and like he's a real veteran. He's popping out. Okay, he's getting a bit outpaced into the opening corner, but he's keeping his line. And then when he sees the gap, he's hammering and he's
if
hammering home. He's just
if
running great.
if you told me at the peak of his career when he was, I think he got to the semi-final of the Laurels, and I know he definitely got to the final of the Ledger. At the peak of his career, if you told me he could get to the bar one final, I'd have laughed at you. And
Yeah.
he's four and a half now, had every sort of injury, and Martin has got him in the final. And I know when they were doing the draw the other night, I heard Martin in the back and going, up you lad, you," in the middle of the video. So he's definitely happy to be placed in trap one. But I did want to acknowledge the dog and his handler for a remarkable achievement making the final of this.
Well, Martin's had his own issues as well over the last year. I
Yeah,
got
yeah,
speaking to him
yeah,
recently enough, and he's in great form. In fairness to Martin, he's always in great form. Now,
yeah,
that might change this year because Liverpool look like they're going to be doing nothing. And that would be wonderful for him, to have a
yeah.
competition final, hopefully ahead of Liverpool finishing eighth in the league and stuff like that. We won't say anything more to you, Tommy. Lenny's Desire won the Cambridgeshire. Kevin, he's just an immensely fast greyhound. And while everything didn't go right from him the night, he didn't get the start he needs. He shows his four bend class. He gets to the front. I'll be honest, I thought you were in real danger in the back straight when Blackstone Cola was in second spot. She's not quite returned to the sort of form we saw from her in Waterford earlier in the year. She's beaten a length, but she didn't find an awful lot up the last sort of 20-25 strides where you'd be going, oh, we're in trouble here, we're in trouble here. But she's just not quite firing like she did earlier in the year. Now, that said, if Lenny's Desire had hit the lids, he's going to be five clear at that point, so it wouldn't have made a difference. So it probably balanced itself out.
Yeah, look, I think he's stronger now than when he was in Waterford too. He's more
Yeah.
accustomed to this six bend. He's able to pace himself a little bit better. Heart sank, typical Desi when the trap's open and he stayed in the boxes again. I couldn't believe it when the draw was done and he got to the final of the Cork Cullen. I'm not saying he would have won the Cork Cullen from a different trap. It was a brilliant winner of the Cork Cullen, but to get trap one in both finals, I was cursing our luck. But anyway, especially when he missed the break. But we might just take an adventure across the pond again in a couple of weeks' time. I think there's a ledger on in Dunstall Park. I think
Will
first.
that rule him out of Derby final night?
Yeah,
Okay.
it would. It would. Now, if he goes, I think the first round is the 5th. I was just looking at it the other day. Now I have to look into, but it was actually Tom McLaughlin who I can't believe it had to drive him over the Hove. For anyone that doesn't know, it's about 7 hours off the
Yeah, yeah,
boat,
yeah, yeah.
and I didn't think Tom would ever drive for us again. And Tom was the one that said to me, "Oh, I spotted another one there in Dunstall Park. We might go for it." So I didn't think
You
he'd
must
drive.
you must be paying Tom well.
Yeah, I said, Tom, you're a glutton for punishment. But I look into it a bit more, and it's just there's not really many competitions over here. You know what I mean? It's literally
Mm,
Derby final night now, and probably the Winter Racing Festival, and he's coming. He's 3.5 now, so like it's
yeah,
coming to the end of his tether, and he's in great form. He's still coating out. I think he'll get better, and I don't really. Look, I'll keep her. They forced their hand a little bit at Hove with the seeding and stuff like that, and I just don't think we got to see. I don't think the UK got to see the Lenny's Desire that we think
no.
he's capable of, and that competitiveness in me, I suppose, is not overly pleased about that. So I'd like to go over and get a crack at all their big ones because they've got unbelievable stairs. I'm not saying we're going over to win. I just want to see where we're at in comparison. So we might have a look at that in the next few weeks. We'll see.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. That's fair enough. Tommy, before we go, you want to give just a line or two on Kildove Cahill? Obviously from Kevin's neck of the woods, Kildove Cahill, but a tremendous winner the other night of the Casco Derby down at Curraheen Park, €6,000 for the winner, and he did everything right to justify even money favoritism. You know, the fact that he's an even money favorite from Trap Five, that tells you he probably had a fair sort of
Mm.
margin on his rivals.
Yeah, and look, there was an empty box on four like that helped his case all right, but he has electric early pace, and it was enough to clear the inside runners. And yeah, he's a smashing dog. He's a very likely race. Yeah, I'd imagine. I don't even assume that he'll be back for the Laurels. Has to be.
Yeah, he's a type of dog. If things had gone right after him, he must have had a setback after the Champion Open and raced. He could well have been running in Shelburne Park at this time of year, Kevin. That's the sort of promise he showed in his
He,
first two starts down there in the Champion Open.
And the night he ran the second round was the deluge of rain. I can't describe enough how much rain fell that night. And word had got around locally here that he had maybe pulled a muscle or something and was stiff and
Mm,
sore after. He's a dog I've been keeping a very, very close eye on. I talked more than once about making a couple of phone calls. This dog is frightening early, like
well,
genuinely. Like this is brute early speed. You're talking about the Bar One Sprint Cup. Put this lad on your notebook for next year. This lad
yeah.
has got proper early speed, and yeah, he's a real exciting pup. And I thought the draw out in 5 would be very difficult for him the other night, but obviously, as Tommy said, no trap 4 made a lot of room for him, and well done to Michael Donnelly and the Bergen family, great stalwarts like the Kenny track here locally. So delighted to see them land that. I think it was a 6 grand prize. So well done.
Yeah. Uh, that's it, folks. We're going to pack it up. One more thing, just to quickly mention, I won't ask the lads in their opinion. The Galway Oaks winner, Magical Be Nifty, was the fastest heat winner in the first round of the 1xBet Munster Oaks down at Waterford. It's hard to get around to everything, but we'll come back to that next week. So worth keeping an eye on all the action. There's still plenty going on around the country. We look forward to the final of the Barwon Racing Irish Sprint Cup on Saturday night. My own choice is Montana Secret. I just suspect from the two boys, the way they've been talking, they feel the same way. But we look forward to the second round of the BOYLE Sports Irish Greyhound Derby, Friday and Saturday night at Shelburne Park. Don't forget, like and subscribe. We'll have loads of content over the coming weeks with the Derby on and more. And next week, we'll be touching a bit more on the final of the Barwon Racing Irish Sprint Cup. But that's it for myself. My thanks again to Kevin Hennessy and to Tommy Lyons. We'll see you next week. Don't forget Barry Drake's podcast on Thursday. I'm sure there'll be something there, maybe a bit Derby related, but maybe he might be talking to someone to do with Lenny's Desire or maybe the Irish Sprint Cup. I don't know. Kildove Cahill, maybe Michael Bergen. I don't know. That's up to Barry. Anyway, that's on Thursday morning. But that's it from us. We'll see you next time. Good luck, good evening. God bless.
This podcast was brought to you by Greyhound Racing Ireland.